Welcome to today's video. I'm going to do some action to talk about, so I'm going to do a video. Hopefully this will be a little bit shorter than my previous videos because they've been a bit long. But anyway, obviously, but early this morning, we were tracking Tropics from Blanca, which, as I anticipated in my previous video, kind of gradually spun away and was officially written off as a Tropics. Officially no longer considered a tropical cyclone at 2 a.m. this morning Pacific time. So that's the end of Blanca. And as I sort of hinted at, there's going to be a new area. I hinted at several days back there'd be a new area. When I talked about it, there's going to be a new area of disturbed weather that would probably have the potential to become a tropical cyclone between 110 and 125 degrees west. And that's sort of what's happening. Is what's happening here. Is we now have investigating 2E. The National Hurricane Center is given a 30% chance of development in the next 2 days, and a 60% chance of development within the next 5 days. In addition, there's also a couple of areas at least worthy of keeping an eye on. Looking at some of the model, not a couple areas worthy, but a couple areas that could be worth keeping an eye on in the global computer models from the Central American Gaia. I'll get to that in a second. But in the meantime, let's look at this new designated invest. And it sure seems very disorganized now. It's trophy. It's still probably at least 2 days away from being declared, maybe more, a tropical depression. But the global models that I'll get to later do ramp this up relatively quickly. So I do expect this invest to slowly make progress over the upcoming days and become a tropical cycle where the system's located at a relatively low latitude. It's kind of a straight runner type that's likely to move largely west throughout its life cycle. And those can sometimes be very fickle. And we've seen systems like these just mysteriously dissipate after being forecast to become strong, or vice versa. And so you can see it's kind of an instantaneous black to white. You can see the Mexican coast right around here. But now let's take a look at the model runs. So let's take a look at the 6Z run. You can see here's 92E developing. And he really starts to develop a system around as early as late Saturday night into Sunday, and it kind of keeps the system fairly robust. However, we've seen the GFS be too bullish this season so far with Blanca, and we saw us repeatedly struggle in the medium to long range as well. So I'm taking, even though the GFS has been upgraded since 2020, I'm still taking what it's showing right now with a grain of salt. But it is the one that does. However, if the GFS forecast were to verify, we'd see a decent rack of accumulated cyclone energy units as the system tracks westward and gradually, and it will probably eventually gradually weaken. And then, in between, I forgot to mention this here, but then there's also the GFS is also at least hinting at activity from the Central American Gaia. Like the 60s GFS moved to show the system hitting El Salvador, and then later on, around day 11, day 10 starts to show a fairly substantial system moving into Guaro or Oaxaca. Those Mexican things are Guaro and Oaxaca. In addition, the 12Z GFS only is so it's a relatively similar solution with 93, but yes, but also it also only has the El Salvador. But also the only Central American Gaia system moves into that the GFS has moves into El Salvador. In addition, we're taking the CMC runs, which is also less aggressive, which is much less aggressive with 93, but also shows a system into Chihuahuas at around day 9. I mean, it's not really clear. There's no real consensus yet, but there have been multiple hints throughout the global models. I'll show you the Europe, but there have been multiple hints throughout the global models Yeah, they also show a system by day 10 and moving near the Chiapas, Guatemala border by day 10. I think the previous European run also tries to push the system into Guatemala. It's kind of hard to tell, but I think it's trying to happen. So it's something to keep an eye on, but there's no real consensus set model, so they have not generated on a specific tropical cyclone solution yet. So it's still kind of an open question, but it's definitely something I will keep an eye on, because the system does also obviously have land impacts into Guatemala and El Salvador, and in the Gulf of Tehuantepec region. But there's nothing definite yet. But as I sort of mentioned in my previous video, the intraseasonal conditions should be relatively favorable with a convectively coupled Kelvin wave, even if the Madeline-Julian oscillation remains relatively weak. That's it for what I have to say for today. Hope you guys enjoyed this.